Alrighty, so today we're going to talk about a big news that came out of MLS that kind of answers some of the big questions surrounding who exactly is going to be on the broadcast team of Apple TV. Because today, the league kind of announced some of the play-by-play commentators, some of the announcers and co-commentator, and the in-studio host and announcers that will be part of the Apple TV team. Now, it's interesting to use the keyword some because they've also mentioned that they're not going to announce the full team that's going to be part of the Apple TV broadcast team until before the first game of the regular season is going to happen. So that is why I probably won't do a snub list and talk about maybe some play-by-play commentators, some analysis, or in-studio hosts or announcers that are kind of snub on that list, because most likely some of those names I've mentioned on the snub list, they'll probably be added in by the time the first game, of course, is going to happen and when Apple TV will announce their full broadcast team. So we start off with the analysis, and I'm going to go each by one in terms of my thoughts on that. First of all, we first have Kendra D. St. Alban as the first name to be announced in terms of being one of the Apple TV co-commentator and the analysis, and I'm very happy to see Kendra D. St. Alban got a chance, because that was kind of one of the things that I was hoping, the fact that, most likely maybe Cal Williams is not going to be one of the play-by-play commentator, because I think he's moved on to another network, but I'm just praying that maybe Kendra D. St. Alban can still be part of it, and indeed that is the case, because I think, in my opinion, she is definitely one of the best commentator in MLS, and that I also like the fact that Apple TV, they're definitely hiring more female co-commentator. I think there's definitely been a bit of a rise of female co-commentator in MLS, and that, I know there's always that criticism, the fact that maybe when they hear female co-commentators, some people don't really like them because their voice could be sometimes be a little bit annoying, but I found that there are some very good female co-commentator, and that, as I said, Kendra D. St. Alban is definitely one of the best one. I really enjoy listening to them when they broadcast Loons game, and that, and it kind of shows too with the way that, I remember in that final game of the season against Vancouver, and I was there, I saw them did the tifo of commemorating Cal Williams and Kendra D. St. Alban working for what could be the final time. I mean, that just shows you why they're so well loved in the Loons fan base, but in general, in terms of the MLS fan base too. And that, again, I'm very glad the fact that she, of course, got the job. And then you got Maurice Adu as part of the announcers. I mean, it's not a big surprise Mo Adu gets the job. He is definitely one of the better MLS announcers that is in this league, and that he's been covering multiple big games on the Fox Sports network. So yeah, it's not a big surprise to see him on there, although I'm kind of disappointed that it seems like JP Delacamera is not going to be part of the play-by-play commentator. I mean, JP Delacamera is just a Hall of Fame broadcaster. I would say he's kind of like the Vince Scully of MLS broadcast. Has been there ever since the league started back in 1996, and from what I heard, it seems like he is moving on to another row, and that he's not going to be part of the Apple TV team. Yeah, I'm going to be definitely a little bit disappointing, because whenever I think of Mo Adu, besides the fact that he, of course, broadcast game alongside with Kevin Egan with Atlanta United, I've always hear him, of course, join with JP Delacamera broadcasting all these national televised kind of game. Then we got Lauren Lindsay as one of the announcers. So again, two female co-commentator that is going to be part of the Apple TV team. Now this one is kind of a little bit of a surprise, because I will say that for Lauren Lindsay, I was very surprised that she left Nashville SC as one of the broadcast team after just one season, because I thought she did really well in terms of analyzing the game, and that it was kind of a surprise that she decided to not continue in the second season. So yeah, I think seeing her back is definitely a good thing. But also, with the way that she's only been with an MLS team just kind of for one season, maybe people didn't think that she was going to be part of this Apple TV co-commentating team. But like I said, it seems like Apple TV, they're more fair in terms of hiring female co-commentator, and especially some good ones. And Laura Lindsay is definitely one of the better one. Now, speaking of female co-commentator, the next one it was announced is Danielle Slayton. Now, there's no doubt that Slayton, in my opinion, is probably the best female co-commentator that we have in MLS. I mean, I said Kendra D. St. Albin is one of the best, but if I had to go head-to-head between her and Danielle Lee Slayton, I have to go with Slayton. I mean, the fact that doing the way that she's been able to provide excellent co-commentary and excellent analysis on the Quakes broadcast team, that says something, because I know the Quakes broadcast team, I've mentioned many times that I really don't like it, and especially if it with Andrew Passarelli and Chris Dangerfield as kind of the commentary team for the Quakes. Yeah, it can be a little bit hard to listen, but if it's gonna be Passarelli and Slayton, I'm okay with that, because Danielle Slayton definitely brings some good insight, and that especially she has now been taking a bigger role in terms of being the sideline reporter for, I think was for Fox for the past couple years. It's not a big surprise, the fact that she is, of course, part of the team. I mean, I think if she wasn't part of the team, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of people that's going to be very, very disappointed, and that's not just Quakes fans in general. Then you got Taylor Twalman as one of the announcers. In fact, Taylor Twalman was kind of the face of the cover when this announcement was made, and rightly so, because after what I talked about in the news of the week of Taylor Twalman leaving ESPN, I mean, it was pretty clear that this is no surprise. He's definitely going to be part of the Apple TV team, and Taylor Twalman, like him or not, he is definitely one of the more well-known personality, and I would say that with him working with ESPN, it kind of fits perfectly in some way. It just fits with the way that he is a guy that is not afraid to provide some really good hot takes, and that those hot takes, some of them are kind of really hot takes, and then some of them are just kind of ones that will kind of drive people crazy. But at the end of the day, Taylor Twalman is definitely one of the more well-known personality, and that, again, in some way I could say that he's kind of almost compared to Skip Bayless, and that, of course, is before the whole Skip Bayless situation that we saw a week ago, where he was definitely under attack because of something he said. He tweet out either the DeMar Hamlin situation, but yeah, Taylor Twalman, again, it's not a big surprise. He is one of the announcers, and I'm assuming he's going to be kind of like the main analysis, and that if there is going to be kind of a situation where I know Apple TV is going to do something similar to what we see the NFL does for Fox and CBS, where there's going to be like a lead play-by-play commentator and the lead co-commentator. Taylor Twalman is definitely going to be on that lead team. Then we jump into the Spanish and French analysis team, because we haven't forgotten about that they're going to be part of this Apple TV deal. Now, on the Spanish analysis, we got Marcelo Balboa as the Spanish analysis. Now, obviously, I definitely enjoyed him doing his time with the Colorado Rapids alongside Richard Fleming. But Marcelo Balboa is definitely more known for the Spanish analysis, especially with the way that, if you, of course, watch 2DN on MLS pretty much every Saturday, he's basically one of the co-commentator for those games. So, yeah, it's not a big surprise to see that he, of course, is part of that team. But then we go into the French analysis team, and we got Sebastien Latour as the French analysis team. Now, obviously, if you're a Union fan, you're definitely very familiar with this guy. He is basically a legend for the Philadelphia Union, and again, they even had a ring of honor that is named after him, because of how he is pretty much the first superstar player for this Union team, and has been a leader of this team ever since they came into the league in 2010. And he's also been the studio kind of host for the Union for the past couple of years, and that now it seems like, well, actually not the studio host, I'm sorry, but one of the analysis for the Union studio team. So it's kind of interesting that now he is moving up in terms of being one of the French announcers. And by the way, there's definitely some names that I'll mention in this that you can definitely make an MLS starting 11 out of it, because there are definitely some well-known names that is going to be part of the Apple TV team. Now, we go to the in-studio team, and in one of the in-studio team as the host, we got Liam McHugh as one of the hosts. Now, this is a very interesting one because Liam Mayhew has been right now the main host of NHL on TNT, and it's kind of weird to see that of course is the case where he's come from now NHL on TNT to now coming into being the main host of Apple TV in terms of sport. Now, besides that, he also has had he's pretty much been the host of most of the in studio host for most of the NBC kind of network sports. He's been host with college football. He's even been the main host of Premier League kind of coverage that NBC of course had. So he's definitely not a stranger in terms of being an in studio host, and that again, I think that out of some of the names in terms of in studio hosts, I think that one kind of came off of a surprise, though. That at the same time, the one that I was thinking is Rob Stone, but I think Fox, of course, will have retained most of their in studio hosts and in studio announcers because but they of course are part of this Apple TV linear deal, which is why when you look at some of their in studio hosts and also some of their announcers like Alexi Lawless and Rob Stone and even their main commentator in John Strong and Stu Holding, they're still going to be part of MLS coverage because of the fact that Fox, of course, it is part of the linear deal that the league, of course, signed in terms of the broadcast alongside with Apple TV. Now, we also got Jillian Sakovich as one of the in-studio hosts, and again, this is another interesting one because Sakovich, she's been mostly working as a sideline reporter, I think for Fox for many years. I can't remember, is it Fox or ESPN that she's been mostly the sideline reporter. So this is going to be an interesting transition from being a silent reporter to being one of the in-studio hosts, but we'll see how she is going to do there. And then in terms of Spanish hosts, we got Tony Chirchi as one of the Spanish hosts. Now, there's definitely going to be some names on here that I'm not that familiar, and Tony Chirchi is definitely one of those. One I'm not that familiar with him. I think he was one of the hosts for 2DN, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, if you're a person that usually watch MLS game on 2DN or watch it in Spanish, then maybe that is going to be a name that is going to be familiar. But then in terms of some of the announcers that we will have in terms of in studio, and boy, we got some big names. First of all, we got Sasha Kljestan as one of the announcers, and this is definitely a bit of a surprise with the way that, he just recently retired. I mean, I was thinking that maybe Sasha Kljestan was gonna pursue a coaching career, but it seems like he is gonna make the jump to being one of the announcers. And in some way, I had a feeling that was the case because he was a big part of the World Cup announcers team that Fox, of course, had in Qatar, and there was a sense that he can definitely be returning to Apple TV as one of the in-studio announcers, and even during his time as one of the in-studio announcers in the World Cup, I think the way that Sasha Kljestan kind of was that take on that role during the World Cup, I thought he did a good job at it. I mean, this definitely didn't look like a guy that didn't really have a lot of experience in terms of being an analyst. And keep in mind, just like being a player, a lot of these personality that's going to be part of the Apple TV team, they're very experienced. Like they are considered they're some of the best in our industry, and that I think even though that of course is the case, I feel like Apple TV is not afraid in terms of taking some risks, maybe hiring guys that maybe haven't been in this industry a lot. And like I said, for Sasha Kljestan, besides covering the World Cup, he hasn't really been an in-studio analysis for very long. So it's kind of interesting of him joining into that team. And the same goes with Bradley Wright Phillips. This is probably the biggest surprise, considering the fact that I don't think BWP has ever been an in-studio analysis, and that I think he's also going to be part of the Whip Around show that MLS and Apple TV is going to have. That is pretty much the MLS version of NFL Red Zone that we see the NFL does. So it's interesting to see how he's going to do. And again, I think at the same time, Apple TV, in terms of hiring some of these announcers, they want to go for big name and well-liked personality, and BWP is definitely one of the more well-liked personality and well-known kind of player in this league. And then finally, we round up with Diego Valeri as one of the Spanish announcers. Again, another guy that I don't think he has a lot of experience in terms of being the in-studio announcers. But, Apple TV need to bring a big name and definitely a good personality. And I think bring Diego Valeri definitely can do so. So, yeah, that is pretty much all your in-studio hosts and announcers. And again, there's going to be definitely more that's going to be announced, and that goes the same in terms of talking about the co-commentator and the analysis. Now, let's get into my favorite category to talk about, which is the play-by-play commentator. And you know me, in terms of play-by-play commentator, I definitely are more clinical or more cynical, and are kind of more heavy critics in terms of looking at these play-by-play commentator. Now, the first play-by-play commentator that was on this list is Max Britos. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a big fan of Max Britos. I've never been a big fan of him. I really don't like the commentary style that he has, especially the cringy kind of moment every time when a goal, of course, is scored, a yes kind of moment that is scored. But again, because he's very experienced, and the fact that he's been part of big national televised team before, that is kind of one of the reasons why Apple TV decided to hire him. Now, the next name we have is Steve Carnelossi. Now, Carnelossi is another guy that at first I didn't really like his commentary style, but he kind of grew on me in some way that I kind of do enjoy the commentary style that he has. Now, his commentary style kind of similar to a little bit of how a hockey commentator commentate the game, and that's not a big surprise because he's actually the main play-by-play commentator for the New Jersey Devils. So there's definitely some of that kind of transition in terms of him commentating Red Bulls game along with shit messing. But like I said, I think as the year goes along, I started to like him much more than before, where I didn't really like him, and I didn't like the style that he of course used. And again, he's also a guy that has been very experienced, so maybe this is another reason why Apple TV decided to hire him. Now, we move on to the last English commentator, and this is by far, out of all those free play-by-play commentator I mentioned, this is by far my favorite one. Jake Zivins, being one of the play-by-play commentator, and I always love the Portland Timbers commentator, and I love Jake Zivin in terms of his commentary style, and it's also the fact that I always enjoy it every time when he of course broadcast, or he of course is the play-by-play commentator for some of these national televised Fox game, and that I just had a feeling that out of all the play-by-play commentator that I had a feeling could be on this team, and I really hope that could be on this team, Jake Zivin is definitely one that I was hoping that was the case, and indeed, he is going to get that role to be one of the play-by-play commentator for Apple TV. Now, in terms of the Spanish play-by-play commentator, well, this is definitely a very legendary name, and a name that if you watch a lot of 2DN games and a lot of kind of Mexican game on 2DN, you would definitely recognize this name, and even some Liga MX kind of game, you would definitely recognize this game. It's none other than the myth and the legend Pablo Ramirez. He is definitely back doing some commentator for play-by-play for MLS, and I'm very glad to see that is the case, because I definitely at times do listen to some of these Spanish play-by-play commentator, and I think Pablo Ramirez is definitely one of the best one. And in fact, I think the first ever kind of games that I've watched on Spanish, it was commentated by Pablo Ramirez, and I really kind of love it with his style, especially with the goal call that he has. Certainly, he has multiple signature kind of way to call goals, and that, yeah, I mean, he is definitely a guy that I was kind of surprised that he was let go of 2DN, but some people will really hope that he of course would be able to get back to being one of the play-by-play commentator at some level. And I think a lot of MLS fans, especially Spanish-speaking MLS fans, are very happy to see that he's going to be part of that team. Now, in terms of French play-by-play commentator, because let's not forget about the Quebecy, and especially for Montreal fans, it's going to be Frederick Lohr. And again, this is another name that I'm not that familiar, other than the fact that I think this name may be very familiar to Montreal fans, because he is definitely the play-by-play commentator for Montreal, and I won't be surprised that whenever Montreal, of course, play games on Apple TV, he's definitely going to be the main commentator for these French play-by-play commentary in these MLS game. And yeah, like I said, out of all of these names that I've mentioned, this is only the beginning list. We're definitely going to get more teams, and especially from what I heard that MLS is going to hire up to 12 broadcast team, and the fact that I've only mentioned 5, and I mentioned 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 names on here. There's going to be more that is going to be part of this team, and there's definitely going to be some most notable one, especially from those regional network that I mentioned before, and me talking about that in a video about my opinions in terms of all these regional broadcast kind of team. I wouldn't be surprised some of them would be hired by Apple TV and will be one of the play-by-play commentator and the announcers. And the same goes with in-studio hosts and announcers. There are some regional network that does have an in-studio host and announcers, and I won't be surprised they also would be hired as part of this Apple TV deal. But until then, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video, and let me know in the comments below what do you think of some of the announcers, the in-studio hosts and announcers and play-by-play commentator that have just announced. Is there some that you hope that could be included into this team by the time Apple TV eventually is going to announce the full broadcast team for them heading into the 2023 season? But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.